So, I'm going to be beginning my Chao guide here. So, first things first, we have to take care of one question. What are Chao? Chao are basically these adorable little creatures that you can take care of and breed and stuff in the Sonic Adventure series. So in each stage, you will find 3 of these Chao crates, except for the root stages, of course. When you open the first one, you will find a key. This will bring you to the Chao Garden. There are 3 of these crates. The other 2, if you open if you already opened one and you open another, you will find animals and such in the others. So you don't really need to open the others unless you really want to. So next thing, I guess I'll show you the Chao Garden now. Okay, so every time you go to the Chao Garden, you will enter the Chao lobby. The first time, you'll only see one entrance, and that's it for the entire lobby. You will unlock more places to go soon. Alright, so this is the Chao Garden. This is where you start your Chao adventure. So basically what a Chao Garden is just a bunch of land. There are these. This is a Chao Transporter. Just want to explain that. A Chao Transporter is for the GBA. If you have the Sonic Advanced or Sonic Advance 2 for the Tiny Chao Garden, you can like move your Chao between the 2 gardens. Okay. And you can also say goodbye to your Chao and basically send them into a faraway forest and never see them again. If you're overwhelmed, then yes, you should yes, it might be a good idea to do this, but another thing is you could also, if you have a GBA, you could actually do something that you can look up, and you can move your Chao to another memory card. So if you're really overwhelmed, then I suggest doing that. But sometimes I don't really suggest saying goodbye to your Chao because it can be really, well, I don't know. It's up to you, of course. So in each garden there's 3 trees. There's always water. And there's usually somewhere your Chao can fly off of. Except for Dark Garden, of course. Which you will see that in later episodes. So you'll see 2 Chao eggs in the first garden you enter. The others you'll see 1 the first time you enter. Which you'll also see in later episodes. Okay, so this is the best way to hatch your Chao. What you do is you go in front of your Chao egg, you hold the B button and keep holding it after you have them in your hands, then push the stick in any direction, doesn't matter. Normally it only takes 5 times. The more you do it, changes their personality. There's no way to tell what the personality of your Chao is going to be. It can also change the facial expression. The other ways to hatch your Chao is to pick up the egg and throw it at the wall. Of course, when there's actually Chao in it. Or you can just let it sit there, and in about 3 to 5 minutes, it should hatch on its own. Sometimes longer. So yeah, and when you have Chao, you will see. Well, I mean, every Chao has a sphere above its head. This sphere can be 3 different things, depending on like if it's mature. A child will always have a circle, a sphere. A regular sphere. If it's a hero Chao, which you'll learn about later, it will have a halo. And the dark Chao has a spike ball above its head. This sphere will change shape depending on their emotion. Like right now, that means he likes what I'm doing. And that means the bond between me and him is growing stronger. So if you want Chao to love you, then that's how you make them love you. By just doing this. Also, you'll notice him, he's slowly getting brighter. You probably can't notice this yet. It's kind of hard to tell until he gets really bright. Right now, since I'm using Tails, who is a hero character, I am changing his alignment towards hero. So when he grows up, he'll become a hero Chao. When your Chao can't swim yet, it's a good idea to make sure they don't go in the pool. Alright. When your Chao looks like this, this means that your Chow is ready to become a hero Chow. It will take some time, obviously. He won't just instantly become a hero Chow. It takes 3 hours to grow up your Chow. Otherwise, another way is after you learn about stats, you can give your Chow level up your Chow's stamina to about level 9 or 10, and it will in 5 minutes will grow up. A good thing to do after you hatch your Chow is to feed them. I suggest feeding them about 1 fruit, even if they throw it away the first time. Although I will say, if they do throw away their food a lot, that means they're overfeeding them. So don't do that. It can harm your Chow, and it's not very good for your Chow. So yeah, that's what I want to explain. Oh yeah, and there's also, I forgot to say, there's neutral Chow, which is the same as a child Chow just grown up. So they look a lot more they look a bit bigger in certain areas, and depending on their type, they would look a lot different. And only neutral types, if they're not a color, then they can change color, like Chow that look like this. If they're like green, like just lime green, the whole Chow, then it's not going to change color, no matter what you do. It might go a little bit darker if it's a dark type, and a little bit lighter if it's a hero, but that's about it. There's not really much that you can really notice for that. Alright, so after she's finished here, it's time to name your Chow. The first time you exit the Chow garden, you will notice a kindergarten. A Chow kindergarten. The Chow kindergarten is basically where you can do everything with your Chow. You can learn about them, you can name them, and you can put them in classes and talk to the principal. There's also, this is very creepy, but there is a black market in the kindergarten. Kind of weird. You can buy stuff with your rings, and the more emblems you have, the more rare the items. Every 15 minutes, the items in this place will change. The different fruit that there are, I will explain later. Since it'll be easier once you know more about stats and stuff. Okay, so this is the health center. This is where you can see if your child is sick. You'll see symptoms that are that can explain that your child is sick. It's very rare for a child to get sick, but there are ways for your child to get sick. Alright, so as you can see, this Chow is pretty damn balanced. I'm going to make him a flying type. He is a crybaby. You'll see that a lot in baby Chow, in children for Chow. In terms of personality, the only real chances that you have, for different personalities when they're a child is usually crybaby, big eater, naive, and no personality. If your child has no personality, then when they grow up, they will either gain a personality or they just won't have a personality. If your child has no personality, then there's nothing really unique about your child, the way your child acts. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Alright, so this is the fortune telling house. The fortune teller will give you names for your Chow. However, I do not prefer her names. Because her names can be kind of cheesy and such, like Dengue. I don't really want that. There's supposed to be quotation marks around that name, but they're not there sometimes because I'm using Dolphin to run the game. And now it's asking me if I want a different name, and I'm going to say no again. And then it will ask you, how about naming your child yourself? So I'm going to do that. I'm really slow at names, so I'm just going to skip this. I also come up with some pretty weird names, but they're not I'm pretty good at naming my child. Okay, so I have named my child Gizmo. She will always say it's a good name, so you can name them something ridiculous, and she'll still say that. This is the principal's office. Here you can learn about Chow if you don't have time for YouTube. but he will not give you very straight information in terms of the stuff that you can learn on YouTube and on like written Chow guides. This is the classroom. You can like leave your Chow here, and they will learn whatever the lesson is. And back in the Chow garden, whenever they're bored, they'll start doing whatever they learned. There are many things that your Chow can learn. It's you don't really find them repetitive, I will say that. So you won't repeatedly all the time just see the same lesson over and over again. Which is very nice. Yeah, you can sell items at the black market. I forgot to say that. Like eggshells and fruit. Fruit sells for 10 rings, so it's pretty worthless to sell that. And plus, it's good for your Chow. Unless you have like a hero tree and you just want to sell the stuff on it. Okay, so that's really all there is to the kindergarten. I'm just going to name this Chow, so I'll be right back. Okay, so as you can see, this Chow is a good runner. Since he's a good runner, I'm going to make him a running type. I did not explain much about the abilities last time, so I'm going to explain them now. For grades, this affects how much the skill will go up each level, which you will learn more about when I teach you about stats. And how they level up and stuff. So, the different grades there are is E, D, C, B, A, and S. S being the best, E being the worst. If they're E, then they will basically suck like crap in that specific skill. So if they have E in running, for instance, it'll take them forever to learn how to walk. Instead of like the average level, it'll be like a level or two higher. Usually just one because it's really low. So yeah. Again, you'll learn more about what I'm talking about when I teach it to you. Oh yeah, and I forgot to explain what the favorite means. Favorite, there are a special fruit in the black market. This Chow likes square fruit, for instance. My other, I think, likes round. So in here, oh wow, shiny yellow egg. Yellow egg. What's the price? Oh god. Okay. First time I've seen a shiny egg in a while. So there are different fruit. Right now I can only buy the square and triangle fruit. Sometimes some of them won't appear. These are just duplications of like the normal fruit. Except your Chow may really like a certain kind, so if you really like them, you might want to buy a couple, although I'm not really into doing that. There's nothing really special that happens when you do that. Unless you really want to get them to eat. Because they'll eat that way faster than they'll eat any normal fruit. Also, you'll notice I just fed my Chow scraps. I don't suggest doing this all the time because your bond doesn't grow stronger when you feed them scraps. Because, I mean, nobody wants to always be eating scraps from other people. Like, if you were a child and your family just kept feeding you scraps, how would you feel? I would feel pretty damn crappy, I think. So, yeah. Make sure that you feed them regularly with full-size fruit. Only feed them when they're hungry. Another thing. Because, like I said, you don't want to overfeed your Chow. It's very bad for your Chow. If your Chow is a big eater, for instance, if you feed them too much, because they'll like non-stop eat, then they will get a stomach ache and you'll have to take them to the doctor. And sometimes it's hard to tell if they have a stomach ache. If you leave a Chow in the water, whether they can swim or not, for a human hour, they will get a cough. So you want to watch out for that too. There's also a rash. That's the only thing I've ever seen a Chow have. I have never seen, nobody that I know knows how Chow get rashes. it's kind of a random event sort of thing, I think. But how I was talking about scraps, one more thing. I still feed my chow scraps every now and again, just because I don't like leaving them around. But I don't like just fill them up on scraps, because then they really, there's no love in that, really. So yeah. Oh, what do you know? I forgot to name this guy. Oh, so if you want to find out more about the tiny chow garden, talk to the principal. One more thing I forgot to talk about. Chow age. Chow will age every 3 hours in human time. The higher their stamina level, the faster that your chow will actually age. So try not to get them to level 99, or else they will age way faster. Like, it's as if they have a disease that they just they age 3 times as fast. So yeah, you might want to watch out. So yeah. I name my child Pebbles. Alright. These are chaos drives. I'm going to show you how you get these. These are how you level up your chow. I'm going to be talking about stats now. Let's move on. Eat up. Okay. So how to get chaos drives. I recommend Tails and Eggman levels because they have the most enemies. There's also animals that you can get, which your chow, they will morph into the animal slowly when you give them animal parts. I mean, when you give them animals. Sorry. The 4 different chaos drives. There is yellow, which is swim. There is purple, which is fly. There is green, which is run, and there is red, which is strength. Strength, aka power. I just called it strength. Whatever reason. Alright. So, basically the reason to get chaos drives is because they don't give your chow animal parts. Of course, if you like giving them animals, because when you give your chow animals, they will learn special things. Like, for instance, one animal will make them do a backstroke in the water. Other animals will, like, make them do sit-ups or somersaults and stuff. You'd have to look into that. I can't really tell you what all of them do, although there's one that I can tell you. There is the Skelly Dog, which is very popular because it negates parts of other animals slowly if you keep giving it to them. So that's a good idea if you don't like the animal parts but you still want to give them the abilities. So yeah, there's that option. Oh, so the Skelly Dog will teach your chow how to put things on their heads. You only need to give it to them once. Okay, so after you have your chaos drives that you want, 10 is the max. So I preferably would get 10 every time. You can sort them out. You can do whatever. Normally I don't sort them out, but I'm just doing this because. Because. So like I said, the different kinds of chaos drives are green, red, yellow, and purple. Run, power, swim, and fly. Alright. Usually the best thing to do is to up their stat that you want them to become. Because there are types of chow. That only happens once they mature. Gizmo. Gizmo is going to be my fly type. So I want to give him some of these. Now you will notice for each stat there are 10 bars. 10 little bars. There are bars, numbers, boxes, and levels. Levels don't really matter. What really matters is that 4-digit number. That tells you how good your chow is actually at that skill. Depending on the grade in that stat that they have will change how fast that number goes up for each level. After you fill in all 10 boxes, oh yeah, there's a trick to doing this with the chaos drives. You pick up your Chao, put it like a few feet away from there, away from the chaos drive. You pet your Chao, and then he would just sit there and admire what you just did, really. Well, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. And then you just get it this far away from your Chao and drop it in front of him. And he will pick it up and just throw it back. And he still gets the skill. So every time those bars go up 10, each chaos drive will do 2 to 3 bars. Or I mean boxes. It will go up level. And that big bar, what does that do? That will eventually shade in. Like once he levels up, you'll notice a tiny little yellow speck. At 1,000, that will fill up all the way as yellow. After you hit 1,000, then it will become orange. And then once you hit 2,000, it will start becoming red. It will like overlap the color. And of course, there's gray, as you already know. So yeah, that's the basics of Chao skills. Also, if you want to make your... Oh wait, I already said that. I was gonna say about the Chao stamina thing, how you can age them faster and stuff. Because if you get them to level 9 or 10, you can get them to age in an hour. I think I already said that. Or sorry, you can get them to... Once you get their stamina up to level 9 or 10, as a child, in like 5 to about 20 minutes, anywhere between that, depending on how aged they are, they will mature. So it's a great way to speed up the process, but be careful because it may cause your child to become a normal type, which is not very unique, and it's kind of lousy when you want your child to become something else and then they don't go the way you want them to. Okay. Oh, that's flying. Never mind. Forget what I was going to say. Okay, I'm just going to skip this part until I get his flying to a high enough thing to talk about. One more thing I want to say about animals. Animals are like, they kind of backstab you in a way. They will up one of your Chao's stats by 4 bars. They will up 2 stats, well, 3 to 4 bars, and then they will up 2 stats by about, I would say, probably like 2 bars, approximately. And then they will reduce 1 stat by like by like 1 or 2 bars. One thing about that though, that's good. Your Chao cannot go down a level if they've already gotten so far, which makes sense because it would suck if when you give your Chao animals they went down levels. They only go down in bars of experience, which is nothing special unless you don't do the cheat. Then it can be kind of annoying because you can try to level up one thing, then you give them other animals, and then what you just did was useless. So I don't suggest using animals unless you're going to do the cheat thing that I do. If you don't want to, of course, you can do it that way too. Because it works for animals too, and it's much easier because they don't throw it back. They just drop it right in front of them. And then usually you can just pick it up and drop it. You might have to move and adjust where you're standing a tiny bit, but not very often. So yeah. That's Chao skills. One more thing that I want to say is, notice how it flies at 158. He can now fly. Fly is the only thing that's special in this way, because you can do the same thing to teach them how to swim and run. Well, walk on their 2 feet. Once they get to level 3, on average, they will get to 50 run. And then they will start walking immediately. Same thing for swim once they get to level 6 and 100 for the average Chow. For fly, it's usually 9, but I got lucky and this Chow was at a high enough grade to get there at 7, which is why I want him to be fly type. Power, there's nothing special about power. So for flying, the only thing odd about it is that you have to instigate them to learn how to actually use that skill. They will learn it on their own, but what you can do is you can put them on a ledge, kind of like this one, and then they will jump, and every once in a while they will actually fly. That was kind of dumb. Why did he do that? Okay, so let's try and get this Chow to fly. There we go. Okay, usually it takes longer than that, but that is a Chow flying. Kind of neat, isn't it? It takes a really long time to get there, though. Well, not really, but if you use the Chaos Drive cheat, it's a lot faster. Well, anyways. I think I'm just gonna cut part 2 here. Cut part 1 here, sorry. And I guess I'll see you next time in part 2, where I'll talk probably about advanced stuff, more advanced things in terms of Chow and Chow growth and the fruit. I will talk more about that now that you know a lot more about stats. One more thing I want to say before I leave is for the Chow emotions. The different emotions that they can have are pretty simple. Some of them are pretty easy to tell from the sphere, some of them aren't. Well, I'm going to talk about what the sphere can do. It can change between a squiggly line, kind of like a curl, which means they're either sad, mad, or kind of cranky because you woke them up. Chow need their sleep, so do not wake them up. If you wake them up, they will become cranky, so it's not very good for that. Well, I wouldn't like anybody to wake me up in the middle of my nap. And if you do, feed them, pet them, and then just like leave them alone. Eventually they will go back to sleep. Same if you abuse them, you do that same exact set of steps. If you abuse them, you will see the curly line as well. Or if they trip, which just means, well, obviously nobody likes tripping. So just pick them up and usually like cuddle them when they trip. I suggest doing that. If your Chow yawns, that means that they are becoming tired. Of course. Oh, what was I gonna say now? The other thing that they can have above their head, a question mark. A heart, their happiness will go up and the bond between you will go up. You'll learn more about happiness way later. The question mark is how fast, is when they're deciding. They're deciding what to do, or they're trying to figure out how to solve a puzzle in a race, which you'll learn about later. Just like that, he decided he wanted to sit down. Later, you will learn how to make your Chow decide things faster. Very useful. And I'm out.